Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good day. Today I am going to cover on the theoretical part of the GUI. We have done hands-on before and now I would like to cover some parts related to the theoretical part. Okay, so the objective of this content is to cover on how to use JFRAME. I think you've been using it before by creating a customized frame window, and then we want to be able to rearrange the GUI component objects, for example J label, J button, J text, J text area, right? And then we have a look briefly on how to create a J button, J label, and so on. Okay, so when you are using creating your graphical user interface, we basically use two classes from the library, which is JAVAX.SWING and also JAVA.AWT. I think you can see these two packages in the NetBeans that you are using. It's actually on your right hand side where you simply drag and drop the components. Okay, JSwing provide greater compatibility across different operating systems. It's a better option. Okay, so by now you've been able to create your own GUI already. Okay, in here you can see that these are J labels. Okay, the area that you can put in the inputs is called text field, J text field, and then these are the buttons. Right, so the windows is called JFRAME, and then you can have labels, okay, where it is a fixed text, and then you can use checkbox, radio button, or combo box. Okay. Right, this is another example where you can also put sometimes maybe you want to put image, you can use image icon, right? And you can actually change the background, and you can also use menu, J menu, right? We did not use this yet, right, in our lab. Okay, so these are the class diagram for AWT. Okay, so all the components that you've been using, button and so on, is here. This is a text component, right? So this is JAVA.AWT, and then you have button, you have list, you have JFRAME, the window that you've been using. So this is JAVA.AWT. The more flexible one is JAVAX.SWING. This is what you've been using in the lab that we did in the previous week. So basically the component that we use, the button and all those is in the J component. The frame that you've been using is from the Windows. So this is the J frame that you've been using, right? So JAVA.SWING is actually an extension of Java.AWT. Alright, so of all the classes that we have seen just now, basically it can be grouped into three. The first part is the container. So this is like an area that we can put many other objects there. It's like a container. Alright, a space. And then you can put and then we have components. So the component classes is related to the J button that we've been using. Okay, all the button, all the radio button, the combo box is fall under component classes. And then we have the helper class. So this is related to the graphics part where you want to change the color, font and so on. Right, so when you are using NetBeans, you might not realize all this because you simply drag and drop it. But if you do not use NetBeans, where you have to do manually coding, so you have to really know what are the classes being called and so on. Okay, so this is what I refer to just now. and then this is the explaining about the container classes. The one that we've been using is JPanel. I think we've been using JPanel and JFrame. On top of that, there are also JDialogs and JApplet. So container basically used to group the components so that it is in the same place. Right. A layout manager is used to position and place component in the frames. So when you are using JFrame, JPanel, there are a way of organizing the components that is called layout manager. When we are doing the lab before, we don't really realize about the layout manager because you simply drag and drop and reorganize it. Yeah, but if you do it manually, you will be using the layout manager. So we'll come into that after this. Right, the container classes that is common to us is JFrame. Okay, it's a window. Okay, it is a container that holds the other Swing UI components, and we also been using JPanel also, right? So it's actually invisible. It's invisible unless we set the border that you can see. Okay, panel you can put can have it nested, meaning that inside a panel it can have another panel, and can place panels inside a container. Right, so you can have a nested panel, and then JDialogs is a pop-up windows. Okay, that we use for notification. That is also considered as a container, and then JApplet. So this is JApplet is a kind of container that is run on the web. Right, going to the second component, which is on the just now we look at the container. This one is GUI components. These are related to all the buttons, radio buttons, and so on. So beyond this, so here J component, there are a lot. Okay, so you have the JList, JBox, JPanel also fall under J components, right? Alright, and then we have the helper classes. So helper classes are the other classes other than the one that we have explained just now. Are not subclasses of the components. Okay, it does not fall under components. It's actually it belong at the same level as the component. They are used to describe the property. So you might realize this when you use NetBeans, when you right click and then you can see the properties. Those are all related to the helper classes. Right, going back to the frames. So frames is a window, right? That is not contained inside another window. So it's actually the window itself, right? Frame is a basis to contain other user interface. So it's the border that we'll be using it. So we work inside it. So when we are using Swing GUI, we are using JFrame, right? So there are several ways on how to create windows. The first part is declare and create, right? The second part is to create class containing application by extending definition of the JFrame. So let's have a look. So the first part is the first approach is the one that you manually code it. If you are not using NetBeans, let's say you are using JGrabs, when you create the GUI, you cannot, if you are developing the GUI in JGrabs, there is no function for drag and drop here, so you have to manually code it. So you have to type all this by yourself. So you have to import java.swing, and then you create a class, and then you create a main class, a main method, and all the codes to create the frames inside the main. Not like the one that we use when we use NetBeans, where it will automatically generate all the codes for you. Yeah, so this one you have to code it. So this is the first approach if you are not using any tools such as NetBeans. So this one here, you create a JFrame, you create an object of frame. This one you set the size. Yeah, when you use NetBeans, you simply drag and change it the size automatically. Yeah? And then you have to make it to set visible true, meaning that when you run it, it should be visible. And then frame is set default close, meaning that when you close it, when you press the X button here, X it will close. So this is manually, you have to manually code it. Okay, set visible, set is a component of component class. Alright, so this is where you code it without any help from the tool. So the second approach is another way of doing it. It's also uh, you have to manually code it, but this time around you create a class, you import JAVAX.SWING star, and then you create your class, but you extend JFRAME. Okay, so in here you create a constructor. It's actually the same code but different way of coding it. So this one you extend JFrame. The one before you create an object of JFrame inside the main method. So this one here you create a class, and then this class, let's say the class name is myFrame, and then you have a constructor like this. And then you do the same, set what is the title, what is set size, the size, set visible true, and set default close operation exit on close, meaning that when you press the X button it will be closed. And the way that you run it, you still have a public static void main here, but this time around you simply call the constructor. Okay, that's the second way of coding it manually. Alright, so we have seen, so when we create frame, so we will be having this. Okay, content pane is where we put GUI objects such as button, label, and everything that you want to put inside. Okay, so when you create a frame, so this area here is called content pane. Okay, we access the content pane by calling the frames get content pane method. So this is where if you manually code it, if you want to get access to this area, you call this method get content pane method. Right. So what you are allowed to use, okay, for example, you want to access the gray area just now, so you have to use this method get content pane, and then you assign it to a variable, and this variable type is the container. Alright, so by now you can access it by the name of content pane, and then you can set the variable, the background. Okay, so you can do that also when you use NetBeans, but not through this way. Yeah. Another way is to place the objects. Now that you have all the text area, text field, you want to put it in the content pane. Right. There is when you are using NetBeans, you simply drag and drop it, right? But if you manually code it, you need to use the layout manager. So layout manager, there are several ways. Layout manager is a different way of organizing the objects or the components inside the content pane. This one is flow control. Flow layout. It's like it will organize all the all the components in a flow manner, one after the other until it reach the end of the frame. It will go to the next line and so on. Okay, border layout is a way of organizing according to, for example, there is a north and south, west and east. Okay, so that is the way of organizing the event if you are using border layout. Grid layout is more like a table kind of organizing the event. Organizing the component. Or you can actually use absolute positioning, meaning that you set the location of X and Y inside the content pane. For example, let's say you have a button, you want to add it in the button, and then just now we have the content pane here where you want to access the gray area, and then here you set, let's say you want to use flow layout. So how do you do it? You set content pane, set layout, and then you choose the kind of layout manager that you want to use. In this case, it uses a flow layout. Alright, so you have set the content bin. Whenever you want to organize a component within it, it will follow, it will use flow layout. Let's say you have a button. Okay, so this is you manually code it, J button. Okay, and this is the name of a variable for the button, and then you say equal new button, okay, meaning that this is a button with the word okay on top of it. And then you add another button, and then you create another button which is called cancel button. The type is J button, and then you put cancel inside it, so you will be having two buttons. One is okay, one is cancel. Right, now you only created the object, but you do not place it yet in the content bin. So how do you place it? You put content bin dot add okay button, and then when you want to add another one, the second button, you put content bin dot add cancel button. So when you code it in the NetBeans, you do not realize this happened, but if you go and check in the code provided or created by NetBeans to you, you'll be seeing this. Okay, so this is how you manually do it. Right, when you use flow layout, it will organize it according to a flow. So it will keep on adding whatever that you want to add until it reach at the end, then it will go to the second line. Okay, for example, you want to continue using the same content bin, and then you want to add label. Alright, for example, in here you want to add a label. So the variable name is text label, and this is the label. Please enter your name, and then you want to put this label that you have created in the content bin. So you put content bin dot add text label. This is still using the flow manager, flow layout. And then you add another label, right? But this label is not a text label, but an image label. Image label. So you put JLabel, but this time around you put a new image icon. So you put an image here, and then you add this new label that you created into the content bin, right? So it's like that. And then, for example, you want to add a text field. Okay, so you create a text field, and then it's there, and then you want to add it in the content bin. And then here you have a string input get text. Okay, so user input, you allow user to input the text. Alright, so it looks like this. So this is organizing it according to the flow layout. So it's organizing it like that. Okay. So this is the label, which is an image form that is labeled with a text field. Right. So if you want to put a text area, okay, text area, I think by now you've been using it. You've been using text area with a method set text where you put the text in. Append will actually add the text more. Right. For example, you create a text area. So this is how you create it manually. Alright, J text area. So this is the name of variable. And then, for example, you put the text inside. So you put hello \n. Then you add more content to the text area, and then you add more. So what will happen is it will create something like this, hello \n, it will go to the next line, and then it will add up the text. So that is JText area. Alright, so this is a text area with 6 words, right? And this one is where you use NetBeans. You basically use a free design where you simply drag and drop. So maybe you are not concerned about what layout manager you have been using. Yeah. So that is what we have done before. So this is I skip some of it because you already are very familiar with this. Okay, maybe by now you're used to this already. Okay, so you have, this is the design area, this is the navigator, so you know what are the components that you've been using. This is the property parts, this is the helper classes from the GUI, and this is, if you realize this, you can see this is the swing container, swing components, and so on. Okay, so here when you want to use label, you simply drag and drop it. What we seen earlier is where you create your own label. Okay, you create a new object of the label and place it in the content pane. So this is slightly easier, right? So I skip some of it just to walk you through. Okay, and okay, when you want to use button, you simply edit. Okay, you can add text and so on. You can put set button. You can resize it. Okay, compared to what we've seen just now, you have to manually set the size. Yeah, you set size. You use the set size methods. Right, so you want to see that when we code in here, it manually do it for you if you use NetBeans. But if you have to code it by yourself, you have to state this. You have to write this part of code inside the JFRAME, right? And you can change the title, yeah, using the property function. And then when you see the source, yeah, so NetBeans will automatically generate code for you, so you don't realize what's happening. What you see is only the graphical user interface, but so this is the main method that that is created for you, right? And then this is